Welcome to WAM, the Wellness, Arts, and Military Podcast. We connect military communities with enriching arts programs for overall well-being. Join us to explore creativity, wellness, and resilience.
Hello and welcome to the Wellness, Arts, and Military Podcast. I'm your host, Gabriella Smith, and today we have John Selzler here, who is going to discuss with me his new song for the Medal of Honor Day this past March. Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much.
I did mention your name, but if you could just give a little introduction to who you are.
Okay, yeah. My name is John Selzler, and I am a veteran of the Army and the Air Force in that order. And after getting out in 1992, about 15 years of separating myself pretty much entirely from the military and veteran community, I re-entered it and brought forth our nonprofit project called Music Works for Veterans. So I'm founder of Music Works for Veterans, and I've been doing that. We're into our 13th year of bringing music to veterans and their families and supportive members of the community.
Go check out those vet jams. They are held every first Wednesday of the month at the Tub at St. Martin's University.
Yes.
The third Wednesday of every month at Lakewood Gardens.
Yes, exactly. And then we have special bigger events that we kind of have throughout the year. And so if you just go check out our Facebook page or our website, you'll see what it's all about. Perfect.
What inspired you to write this song?
Well, it kind of goes back a few years, actually. I had the pleasure and the honor of meeting a Medal of Honor recipient. His name is Wilbur Ross, and he served during the Army during World War II. And with my Music Works for Veterans project, I often played music for the residents at American Lake VA Hospital here in Lakewood, Washington. And Wilburn was receiving care there. Whenever we'd go out there and play, Wilburn would wheel right up in front of us to the table, and he would play drums with his hands on the tabletop. And he really loved his music and really enjoyed playing along with us. And he was so much fun to be around. But playing there monthly, I often had an opportunity to visit with him and hear more about his story. And I learned while he was serving during World War II in Italy, he's a private first class. He single-handedly held his position against repeated German counterattacks. His unit suffered heavy casualties, and armed with only a light machine gun and while under constant fire, Wilburn stood his ground for over 5 hours, if you can imagine that, firing until he ran out of ammunition.
Oh my.
And but he just refused to withdraw, and allowed his company to regroup and eventually retake their position. So he saved the lives of his fellow soldiers, and he turned the tide, of their engagement there, and was able to prevail in that situation. And so because of that, his actions earned him the Medal of Honor, which was presented to him by President Harry Truman in 1945. And he was later recognized also by John F. Kennedy. So in getting to know Wilburn Ross, the National Medal of Honor Day last year, I decided to actually write a song to pay tribute. So that's where the inspiration came from, but it took me a while to get around to doing it. And by the time I wanted to do it last year, I had like a day to do it and I wasn't able to pull it off. So here it was a year later, and I finally got it done.
Man, so this has been a part of your life for a while now, going and meeting these veterans where they're staying, talking to them, becoming friends with them, hearing the stories inspires you.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Nice. So, can you walk me through your songwriting process from the first idea?
Well, that one's a little scattered, but I'll do my best here.
For sure.
Well, because my approach really varies.
Mm,
I think it really depends on whether the inspiration comes from my own life story, or if it's something that's being offered to me, like by storytelling, or whether somebody hands me a poem, or whatever the case may be. And sometimes I'll write as I'm living the experience when it's my own personal experience, just simply to work my way through a difficult time, for example.
mhm.
And other times I'll write about the life experience years afterwards in retrospect. And after I've had the opportunity to recognize the positive light from that experience, because I'm always one to try to see the positivity in everything that happens in my life.
Half glass.
And yeah, and so those songs to me tend to have more of a lighthearted spin on them, and more of a positive lessons learned approach. Sometimes I'll come up with a riff or a chord, a progression that I think might be worth developing further, and then the lyric content will follow. Sometimes a story idea comes first, and I will get out my guitar and try to come up with music for that idea. Sometimes someone else shares their stories with me, or a poem, and that in turn inspires music for me. When someone's writing inspires me, the music tends to flow quite easily.
Hmm.
And sometimes I'll just hear the melody in my head as I read it. And sometimes it's that powerful that their stories inspire.
Yeah, exactly. You read a poem and you could kind of just hear these notes in your head that you want to put to paper. But I know that that is not an easy process. So how long do those songs in particular take? Are those pretty quick to write up for you, or do you kind of mull on them and, revise them as you go? How do those work?
Usually, most of the time, from start to finish, the song doesn't really take very long. I usually, I'll complete a song most of the times within a few days.
Man.
And sometimes I'll start the idea and I'll just put it away for a while and just let it ferment a little bit and bring it out later. I don't try to struggle too hard with completing a song
Hmm.
unless unless I'm under a timeline or something like that. But usually I'll just kind of take my time with it and let it develop naturally without having to force anything. And that's kind of how I prefer it anyway.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and often I'll just be goofing around on my guitar, and that'll, what I'm playing will spark an idea,
Wow.
and then I'll proceed with writing the music and the lyrics simultaneously, kind of hand in hand, and working forward through the song. Yeah, but when I write this way, you should see my draft lyrics page when I do that, because it looks like a bunch of scribbling. I don't know if you've ever seen any of Kurt Cobain's writings,
Oh,
but it's just a bunch of scribble, and
yeah.
you wouldn't be able to read it probably.
The fact that a lot of these come within a few days for you, I mean, it blows my mind because again, I mull over them and I try to perfect them, but I've listened to the songs that you've written in the past. I've been a part of the album making, and all the songs that you've shown me in the past. It just inspires me to just do it, to go out and make the music.
Become like your babies, and
Yeah.
you want to do a good job, you want to raise them right, and share them with the world. And in
Yeah.
the process I do a lot of editing as I write, just the
Yeah.
way they just what they told me not to do in school. Yeah.
And
And yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, you talked about the timelines and how sometimes, for some instances, you're under the clock. And I remember us from previous, meetings and talking about the Medal of Honor song that you were kind of in a time crunch, right? Because you had
Yeah.
realized that the time frame, the Medal of Honor day itself was coming up sooner and sooner. So was the time frame a challenge for you?
it, it's kind of, it's not that I procrastinate. It's more so that I am very, very busy. And since a year ago, when I decided that I'm going to write a song that's going to pay tribute to Medal of Honor recipients on National Medal of Honor Day, uh, it, it's like I got, after last year and that holiday passed. I was like, I got a whole nother year now. And then all of a sudden, here it is. I've got 1 week, and next week is Medal of Honor Day.
Oh,
and so by the time it dawned on me, I that's when I began my work on it. And so I guess the challenge was really, I guess, that time crunch, but it's amazing what you can do sometimes when you do have that little bit of a pressure, and just to get something done. But this was very, very important to me to do a good job with it. And I didn't want to compromise either. But because of the inspiration that I had from Wilbur Ross and knowing him personally, and having met a couple other Medal of Honor recipients in my life, that inspiration came. And therefore, like I mentioned earlier, with that inspiration, it flowed fairly easy. And in this particular case, the writing style was as such that I first wrote a couple lines, of course, and I researched too, because I wanted accuracy and tried to come up with good ideas but I would write a line and then I started kind of the music, because it's reciprocal. When I'm playing guitar, which is my medium for writing songs, that'll inspire, not only the melody, but words as well. But then the words inspire the music. So it kind of, it's full circle, and it keeps going around and around. And that's what helps propel me forward in completing a song.
What about the production part of it?
What I did was I once the song was complete and I recorded it. I think I just recorded it into my phone, sitting on the edge of my bed with my guitar and recording into the phone. And I sent it to my band members, Bill Carley and Bill Giffen. Bill Giffen plays drum. Bill Carley plays bass, and they both sing amazing harmonies. And so I sent it over to them and I said, hey, can you guys come over Sunday? Because National Medal of Honor Day was on a Monday, and we'll record the song. And so I sent that over to them, and they came on over Sunday evening, and we all got together. And they're such great musicians. And I am so very, very fortunate and happy that I have them as friends and bandmates. That even though I might hear how I want a bass part to go or a drum part to go, with these guys, they're so talented that very little coaching or instruction is needed. And we recorded it in 3 hours. So I don't know if you're going to get a chance to play that song on your broadcast or not, but I'll happily send that over as an MP3 for you. And what you hear there is what we did in 3 hours on that evening.
Oh my goodness. I think hearing that alone, I hope, speaks to some of the artists out there who are wanting to start out but feel that the time is a pressure, because this was something you picked up your guitar, you put your phone down, recorded it, and you got some friends to do it with you. I think that's really what counts, is having a team there, having the inspiration, like you said, from the veteran, and then the nature of you being an artist and wanting to inspire others. So, what do you hope listeners take away from this song?
The importance of it, the to pay tribute and to better recognize what these brave soldiers have endured and sacrificed for us, just to be able to to remain free and to have more respect for what these soldiers have done for us, to preserve our freedoms. And I just hope it causes more thought in that regard, and a deeper respect.
That I do so as well. Are you going to play this by chance at any of the upcoming events that you're?
I bet we will.
Yeah, you bet so. I think just hearing it out loud, at the events itself is going to be a great way to push that forward. So, lastly, has writing this song changed you in any way, personally or artistically?
Well, it definitely has caused me, just like I had wished for others to gain from this. It has caused me to reflect more deeply, and to have an appreciation for our Medal of Honor recipients, and to think about it and reflect on it on a more regular basis.
Yeah, definitely.
Not just National Medal of Honor Day, but having a song like this out there.
Mhm.
Hopefully it'll be a reminder throughout the year, and it'll be kind of a regular part of our daily reflections, and showing appreciation for our Medal of Honor recipients. Not all of them survived it, but in the case of Wilbur Ross, he he lived on to be, gosh, he was 94 years old, and he passed away in 2017. And
Thank you for sharing his story.
yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you go to DuPont, there's a memorial park, a circle park in DuPont, Washington, that's named after him.
Oh, I might have to go check that out, being right up the street.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, he's a very special individual, and he was very humble,
Hmm.
about what he did, but he didn't mind talking about it, and telling his story, and it's quite incredible.
It really is. And to just bring light to Medal of Honor Day itself, that's not um one of the larger holidays that people, I think, recognize. So to have something, a song to remember it and recognize it is really important. And yeah, is there any other ways that people can listen to this outside of the podcast?
Well, one angle I've attempted and will continue to attempt is reaching out to these Medal of Honor museums around the country. One of them being in, I think it's in Houston, Texas, actually. There's a National Medal of Honor museum there that I would like for them to include that, maybe with their displays, or see if they like it. And also, listeners here can go to musicworks, the number 4 veterans.org. And if you go up to the media tab from the menu, there's a drop down there, and there's a special page that we created for the Medal of Honor tribute page. And that has a jukebox there with the song.
Perfect. That is great. And is there any last words that you'd like to say before we end the podcast?
My last words are thank you very much, Gabby, for everything that you do, and the work you do with ArtSWA and the WAM program and your podcast, and bringing light to all these great organizations that are doing wonderful work for our veterans and families, and making sure that they're taken care of, and have the resources that they need. And you all are just a huge part of that. And we appreciate you very much, and all of your support.
Thank you so much, John. And you are always a part of the podcast. Every intro, every outro is your music. So always
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks for inviting me to do that. That was so much fun. So yeah, that was. I'm glad you're getting good use out of it. And when I heard it on the broadcast, it actually sounded better than what I remember when I produced it.
Inspiring yourself.
Yeah, there we go. There, feel another song coming on.
All right. Well, thank you again, John, and I hope you have a good evening.
You too. Thank you very much. Through fire and fear, through
blood and pain. They stood while others turned away, with courage bright as freedom's flame. They fought for us, they saved the day. Not for glory, not for fame, but for brothers who called their name. With hearts so bold and spirit true, they gave their lives for me. And above and beyond, they heard the call, risking their lives to save us all. With honor bound, they stood so tall. Their sacrifice, the greatest of all. From distant shores to battle's edge, through darkest nights and last regrets, they carried hope, they held the line. Their bravery stands for all time. Not for glory, not for fame, but for the brothers who called their name. With a heart so bold and spirit true, they gave their all for me. And above and beyond, they heard the call, risking their lives to save us all. With honor bound, they stood so tall. Their sacrifice, the greatest of all. Their sacrifice, the greatest of all. Each name engraved, a story told of selfless love, of courage bold. They did not fight for medals bright, but for the ones left in the fight. Their sacrifice, the greatest of all. 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 So we remember, we stand, we say, thank you for lighting freedom's way. The Medal of Honor, stars and stone, reminds us we're not alone.
In the second part of the interview, we're going to hear spoken poetry from Tanisha Medina. Tanisha comes from a unique background as a third-generation combat veteran and Black woman. Having traveled extensively around the world, her work reflects a tapestry of cultural influences that beautifully merge with her Southern heritage inherited from her parents. She is also dedicated to being a strong advocate for social justice and equity. She is an aspiring poet, writer, and podcast host, and her work has been featured in several exhibits. This includes Path with Art, Voices of Belonging, the 3 E's with Tanisha podcast, her podcast featured on Podbean and Spotify. Path with Art's 2023 Virtual Veterans Art Gallery, Winter Visions exhibit at the Seattle Public Library, spoken word performance at the Tacoma Poetry After Dark event, and the Serving Those Who Served conference in Spokane, Washington. Overall, Tanisha is a talented and compassionate artist who makes a difference in the world through her writing, poetry, and podcasting. Not to mention, she is a licensed mental health counselor with a Master's of Arts in Counseling from Webster University and a Master Resiliency Trainer from University of Pennsylvania. She found comfort and self-expression through the structure of writing. Joining the Army at the age of 20, she became the third-generation Army combat veteran in her family. Therefore, she temporarily paused her creative pursuits, but now, as an emerging artist, has embarked on a journey to reclaim her creative voice. Using poetry and spoken word, she amplifies the silent struggles faced by African Americans while highlighting the bravery and strength found within adversity. Her art serves as a sacred space for healing, empowerment, and advocating for a more just society. She was deeply moved to create these 3 pieces of poetry by taking a journey through her family's 3 generations of Black Army combat veterans' experiences. She aims to showcase their struggles with war and racism while highlighting remarkable bravery, weaving their narratives into a legacy of remembrance. Thank you, Tanisha, for sharing this with us. You will now hear Inherited Battles, a poetic journey behind enemy lines, a multi-generation of Black Army combat veterans, journey through trauma and triumph. This is Inherited Battles, the generations of Army colors behind the front lines.
These are collections of poetry written by Tanisha Medina and also read by her as well. Inherited Battles, Generations of Army Colors Behind Front Lines. The first poetry in the collection is entitled Granddaddy's Narrative of World War I and Vietnam. 2 battles under the mist of foreign skies stood a black warrior with valor stars in his eyes. Destinations unknown, traveling the hazardous paved roads, fighting for fascism abroad along with Jim Crow's laws at home. Close to 18, registered for the draft, to serve his country, which was no small task. Between racial slurs and discrimination, persisted on, dreaming of a world where justice would dawn. In 1948, the T-walls of segregation crumbled. Yet on the home front, the battle for equality stumbled. Double victory campaign, they called it. 2 V's for victories over, 1 slash through Crowism, 1 other strike through to the heart of Hitler. Gunshot wound injured to the eye. Viet Cong sniper set up through the 0 line. From a silver bullet meant to kill, shielded by God, he survived. His flesh and bones recovered over time. Sitting in silent alert in his rocking chair, like an old black and white Western gunfight film, transported in night terrors, flashbacks, and shell-shocked, reaching for the closest liquid message in the bottle, to just close his eyes long enough to make the battlefield images disappear. No reprieve from haunting memories that stalked his sleep like familiar ambushes. A tribute to his duty, his oath of selfless service. Through the hazes of wars, he carried torches of hope, a light in the darkness of those who dream, to have a future rooted in liberty and justice for all. I Want You for U.S. Army. This is another part of the collection as we're going back generations of Black Army combat veterans in my family, as I am third generation. My dad will be next, and this is again read by Tanisha Medina in the collection of Inherited Battles, Generation of Army Color Behind Front Lines. This piece is the second one, and it is entitled My Dad's Vietnam Era Experience. In the dark of night, at age 20, my father was called, drafted to serve the duty of our country in 1966, finished up the Vietnam War on foreign lands. Through the battles of Vinh Binh and Co Ha, followed in the muddy footprints of soldiers who fought before them. For many enemies' attacks unseen, small arm fires from every side, silence being our compass towards combatant sounds, sleep zones as light as a bald eagle's feather, lies precariously dangled by a thread. Voice of a lifeline, incoming, 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 the loud cry. Combat boots swiftly hit the dirt, weapons raised high in the sky. Close friends, battle buddies lost in the smoke of war's cruel heart. Transported in night terrors, flashbacks, and shell shocks dashed off the charts. On non-stop alert, 5 senses sharpened to fight, battle-ready slumber, flying over fear in the hostile night. Courage appears, the old bravery passed down through generations from uncles and relatives who fought in historical wars of our nation. Homecoming felt like a distant dream attached to despair. If only I could sleep for one night, turned towards the message in the bottle. One night turned into extended days, seeking a place of refuge. Wraparound services to mend lukewarm battle wounds. Meanwhile, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words, silenced by a sniper's hand. For racial justice, equality, and human rights we stand. Concurrently, Negro soldiers fell in a distant land. Guaranteed liberties in Southeast Asia's fight, but not found in Southwest Georgia or East Harlem nights. At last, a battle of resilience and honor, gifts woven before. In the death of shadows and echoes, forever we rise to soar. For every ancestor belonging to people of color who fought for freedom, passed along the U.S. flag of stars and stripes, in remembrance of this we will defend. This next piece that I'm reading is the final and third poetry I wrote, Inherited Battles, Generation of Army Color Behind Front Lines, and it is personal to me because this is my experience. It is entitled My Iraq Combat Experience. In 1971, born in a place of African American military generational trauma, be known I would grow up in those familiar foreign grounds, inherited battlefield, fighting for liberty and justice all around, on a mission referred to as Operation Iraqi Freedom. Homeward bound ended on a 15-month tour of war. Awaken in the middle of the black night at the slightest from the lightest of pillow feathers, battle-ready slumber. Boom, shake, and rattles the tin building like a violent earthquake, jumping straight out of the bed into combat boots with weapons and prick 17 in hand. A herd of cattle soldiers stampede the floors, racing for protection, crowded into a constructed T-walls, layered in sandbags high, enclosing fortress bunkers standing against the sky. Voices and speakers loudly wave the air, harmonizing, incoming, 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 enduring 8 hours of heavy mortars, rockets, missiles, and small arm fire downpour. Up at the crack of dawn with the same funky PT uniform on, meeting around the brown table, seats arranged, order pre-drawn. White males point to the sidelines, yet united front we claim. Black and brown skin earned a seat at the table too, not just a name. For every female non-commissioned officer of color in charge, we rise, we reign. If I close my eyes long enough, feelings of dust and wind on my skin as we dive into the dirt, transported in night terrors, flashbacks, and that send shell shocks through my brain waves. Brothers and sisters in arms one day, suddenly gone the next. Prescription by the doc in hand labeled, message in the bottle. Searching to find sound sleep, just to feel human rather than like a machine. Sounds of ancestral blackness ring out in my head. Underground railroad crossing over into Route Pluto to Predator, which led to the safest stretch in Baghdad named the Green Zone. Comparable to chameleons, mapping to trace the backbones of those who gave the greatest sacrifice. Hearing amplified voices of fear under courage mixed with bravery. Army strong.
Thanks for tuning in to WAM, the Wellness, Arts, and Military Podcast, where we're more than just finger paints. Stay connected with us for more inspiring stories and resources. And remember, art and well-being are a powerful pair.